Year one of the Kyler Murray, Cliff Kingsbury era has concluded. Kyler Murray won an Offensive Rookie of the Year award. Kingsbury got 4 wins and a tie. A lot of upside in Arizona.
Welcome to the Rines Report with your host, Tristan Blake Rines.
So let's take a look at the Arizona Cardinals last season. They started out the year with a really strange result, a tie versus the Detroit Lions. Kyler Murray helped lead a strong comeback, but he couldn't pull out a W in this one. And I think it's going to be a fun trivia question in the future. Let's say Kyler Murray has an extravagant career. What did Kyler Murray win, lose, or like what happened in this first game? It's like, well, the one person in the back will be myself, and I'll say he got a tie. Arizona didn't get their first win until week 5 versus the Cincinnati Bengals in a pretty much rebuild year, right? We weren't expecting the Arizona Cardinals to be contenders. Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray would go on to edge out about 4 wins, a total of 4-9-1 record. Their biggest W of the season came week 15 versus the Seattle Seahawks, so they went out on a somewhat high note, unfortunately losing the last couple of games. For a coach that spent his entire actual coaching career in college and a first-year quarterback, #1 overall pick, a lot of high expectations, I mean, it's a pretty meh result, you know what I mean? Like, it's okay. Obviously, Kyler Murray has a lot of upside moving forward, so, you know, when you win the Offensive Rookie of the Year award, there does garner some hype. Finished the season 22nd in points, 21st in yards per game, 24th in passing yards per game, 10th in rushing yards per game. Kyler Murray, again, really strong year, a lot of promise moving forward. Won the Offensive Rookie of the Year award over, Josh Jacobs, over Tennessee Titans wide receiver A.J. Brown. Terry McLaurin was in the conversation as well. So very contentious, but Kyler Murray did get a little bit more favor from the voters. He had 64% completion percentage, 20 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, 3,722 pass yards, 544 rush yards, 4 rushing touchdowns to 5 fumbles. On the other side of the football, Chandler Jones remained a huge star for the defense, was nominated for a Defensive Player of the Year award, had over 15 sacks. I want to say he had like 18 sacks on the season. A pretty meh year, nothing really spectacular, but a lot to look forward to in the future, right? So let's take a look forward. How do the Arizona Cardinals get better? That's the title of the video. That's what I'm gonna try to answer. I'm gonna speculate on a few different moves or, some things they might be trying to do this offseason to put themselves in a better position for year 2 of the Kingsbury and Murray era. So off to a solid start this offseason. Getting ahead of free agency, they re-signed a couple of key components of the roster. Hall of Famer Larry Fitzgerald, obviously, they're re-signing him, 1 year, $11.7 million deal, something along those lines. Re-signed left tackle DJ Humphries to a 3-year, $45 million, $29 million guaranteed contract. So you at least lock up the left side of the offensive line, have a little bit of assurance. Kyler Murray's familiar with what he's getting. Current cap space, they're going to be around $35 million post the Humphries signing. This is according to Over the Cap. That's my reference for a lot of these kind of things. They got some key free agents that they're either going to let walk or they're going to have to re-sign. I'm going to name them off. Kenyon Drake was a big pickup for the Arizona Cardinals last season. Ran off, 8 touchdowns for them and was spectacular for the Cardinals down the stretch. Fantasy football nightmare for the opposition. David Johnson is a few years away from, a few years past a very spectacular season where he had, over 80 catches and 1,500 rush yards. He had a really incredible year. But since then, he's had some issues staying healthy, and when he's on the field, not quite catching that same spark he used to have. Brooks Reed coming off the edge, another key component of the defense. A.Q. Shipley, the center, starter, Marcus Gilbert as well, and Charles Clay, all collective parts of mostly the offense. Brooks Reed, obviously, on the defense. So some key guys that they're either going to look to re-sign or let walk in free agency. I have some thoughts on what they could be doing this offseason, what they might need to do. They got to fill the running back, right tackle, tight end, and the center position hole. So let's speculate. What did the Cardinals actually do as far as free agency goes. Let's start with running back. I think they could bring back Kenyon Drake. They did make the trade to go get him. I imagine that Kingsbury has the idea they're going to use him for a while longer, so they could keep him. He shined in the offense, and with David Johnson's what seemingly eventual departure, they would need someone to be the guy in the backfield. So why not keep somebody who is already familiar with the offense, who was in the system and was very productive in that system, even for not even 10 games. I think they could also go a different route, somewhat cheaper, but I could very well see them trying to take a look at Kareem Hunt. I know he's had some off the field issues, very obviously, and most recently had to run it with a law. If they want to take a risk on Kareem Hunt, I think he provides a very similar skill set. He's still certainly very talented, and given all of the antics and stuff, they could probably sign him for a non-guaranteed deal, pretty cheap still. So maybe kick the tires on Kareem Hunt. Let's take a look at the center position. I have one guy, if they don't bring back A.Q. Shipley, who I think they could, they should maybe go after Ben Garland. He was most recently in San Francisco, played on that NFC Championship offensive line, filling in for Weston Richburg the final 6 games of the 49ers year, so the final 3 of the regular season, and obviously the playoffs. And he could be worth a shot. I can't imagine he'd be too expensive either, given the limited cap space. And, he's a veteran presence. I couldn't imagine be a terrible move for that offense. Right tackle, I have a couple of ideas who they could bring in. Jack Conklin, very young, really, really solid right tackle. He already has an all-pro, piece of his resume, only 25 years old. And you already have your left tackle, might as well solidify your right tackle position. And considering the division they're in, you got Bosa, that entire San Francisco offensive line, Aaron Donald. The Seahawks seem to have some really interesting pass rushers as well. So getting somebody on the offensive line to keep Kyler Murray upright seems to be a smart move here. He's got a very complicated name. I'm going to simplify things. Vita Vitae, the right tackle, backup in Philadelphia. Big body, has some starting experience in Philadelphia, considering Lane Johnson's kind of spotty off the field history. Again, not too expensive, but big payoff type of deal. Take a risk, maybe go get him and see if it works out. I mean, you could probably sign him to like a 3-year deal, nothing crazy. And, if he works out, obviously the ceiling's very high. And if he doesn't, well, it's not like you're, running the risk of losing lots and lots and lots of money. Let's take a look at the tight end position. There's one name I really think could work in this Cardinals offense, could work well, and it's Eric Ebron. He's already slated to hit free agency, had a year in Indianapolis last season that was very, very productive, very successful, found the end zone quite a bit, had an injury-plagued season this year, finished the year on IR post-surgery, but give Kyler Murray another toy to throw to. I mean, if you're not necessarily bolstering the wide receiver position because you've got Fitzgerald, you re-signed him, and you've got Christian Kirk, you've got some guys coming back, well, give him a tight end to throw to. With Charles Clay departing, he's a veteran presence. Give somebody who can stretch the field a little bit more, find the end zone, and, help your quarterback out by having more secure hands, right? They've also got some draft picks. They've got 7 draft picks this year. They got the number 6 pick, so I'm sure the potential is very high for them to pick somebody else also on the offensive line. They have 2nd, 3rd, 4th round picks that are Arizona's. Miami traded them their 5th round pick in the Kenyon Drake deal, I imagine. 6th rounder from New England, and then back in Arizona for the 7th. To summarize, the Cardinals need to keep surrounding Kyler Murray with offensive talent. Perhaps even try to get in on the Amari Cooper race. We understand he's supposed to hit free agency, although the Dallas Cowboys, they love to throw these contracts at people last minute. He seems very comfortable in Dallas, but maybe the Cardinals get in the mix there, bolster the receiving core, and keep developing guys like Hakeem Butler, who didn't play really at all last season due to some injuries, and Andy Isabella, a higher round draft pick, day 2 pick if I'm not mistaken, who's got some burners. I think he could work well in this offense as well. Keep the running game chugging. Don't overload your quarterback. You need to balance things out. If remember my Rams video, I talked a lot how you don't want to overload your quarterback. You want to have a steady running game, and if you're still trying to develop a guy like Kyler Murray who still has an incredibly high ceiling, you want to give him something to, take some pressure off and say, hey, look, I'm going to take this playoff. I'm just going to hand the ball to my running back. You know, take a breath, and then let's get back to slinging this ball, throwing the rock around. Keep building the offensive line. Give Murray more time in the backfield. You want to keep him upright and secure. Open up some more of those gaps for him to see. He is on the shorter end for quarterbacks after all, and that's not taken away from his arm talent, but you know, the more gaps you have, the more you're going to be able to see. Defense could be looking to move Patrick Peterson from some articles that I was doing my research on. But, I mean, I think they need to keep Peterson. He's one of the best players on the entire squad, the second best player on their defense behind Chandler Jones, and they have a lot of good defensive personnel with him included. Kingsbury will have good experience under his belt after year one. It seems like they can only get better from here in a really competitive division with the NFC champion 49ers, the Seahawks, and the LA Rams. They got a really interesting schedule this season. They got Buffalo, Miami, Philadelphia, Washington, Detroit, San Fran, Seattle, and the LA Rams all at home. San Fran, Seattle, LA, of course, on the road in their division, but they're also playing New England. They're also playing Carolina, the Jets, the Giants, and the Cowboys on the road. So I think the Cardinals, you know, making some good moves. I could very well see them winning like 7 to 9 games next season, maybe even sneaking into a playoff spot, but that's very, very, very ambitious. But this is all provided they have a really good offseason. So I guess the big question we have left is what's in store? What's going to happen? Obviously, this is a lot of speculation, but you know, that's all we can do is wait. I mean, March 18th is almost right around the corner. The new league year's coming up, less than a month away. You know, I'm excited for it. We're gonna be covering all sorts of stuff right here on the channel this offseason, speculating what teams could be doing, what maybe they should be, you know, how to improve. We're gonna keep this series going unless something big happens. Of course, we're gonna be talking about it right here on the YouTube channel. Feel free to subscribe, like, share, all the good stuff. Social medias are down in the description below. Stick around, check out some past content right there, and of course hit the subscribe button right there. So, catch you in the next one. Adios.